Hi there, I'm Timothy Linsdau. I'm a video producer, a Christian, interested in history and amateur historian. Today, Happy New Year. Let's talk about the calendar. What day is it? Okay, the calendar we use today was developed centuries ago. It's called the Gregorian calendar, is the one that is most widely used in the world. Now, these were developed in the Christian eras of Europe, named after popes, Pope Gregory. This was in the 16th century when they had this one done. The Julian calendar was, which is based on how many calendars are set, which is based on a particular person's birth or ascension to power, such as a Caesar. And the Julian calendar was about 45, 46 BC, where he wanted it established in some way. And it was based on the founding of Rome. And that was the beginning. That's where they started. Now, there was some confusion for some time, so along came another pope. Who do we have here? This was Pope John I, and there was some confusion, but the thing he didn't like, he chose Dionysius Exiguus, or Dennis the Little, a devout monk, a very bright person, to redo the calendar. And it had to do with establishing church holidays, mainly Easter. So he went back and used the founding of Rome again, but he got the years a little off, and he had set the nativity or the incarnation of Christ, the birth of Christ, at 753 from the time of the establishment of Rome. Apparently was off by, let's see, should have been 749 years from that event, because we have historical evidence for the death of Herod, the life and death of Herod, who was at the time of Christ. Now, Christ as a person is established in historical record beyond the Bible as an actual historical person. Now, it's probably amazing that with what little is available to them to establish the state, that he was only 3, 4, 5 years off on his calendar. But today, again, the most widely used calendar is the Gregorian calendar, established by Pope Gregory. And best I can see, that has to do with fixing the calendar drift, because it's not, the years aren't exactly 365 days. They vary a little bit. Say 365.2422 or something like that. So they had to add in leap years. Every 4 years, you get an extra day to level that drift out. And that's where that came from. There, all around the world, different nations and empires were using different calendars based, again, on the ascension of a ruler or the birth of somebody, so they could establish a date and come up with some type of a calendar. Again, the Gregorian calendar from Pope Gregory, and I have it right here, would have been in 1582. Now, in what year do I have here? Sorry. Let's say this stuff's complicated. All right, it's around 500 AD. 525. All right. That's when Pope John hired Dionysius Exiguus to put together the calendar. The days and so forth that are used in the calendar are still in use, but the correction was done with the Gregorian calendar. Now, as many of you know, the BC and AD were religious connotations based on the birth of Jesus Christ. Now, in the church, that's known as the incarnation of Christ, or when God became man, the God-man. In the Christian religion, he's both, 100% both. He can't not be to fulfill man's salvation through his crucifixion and resurrection. He had to be both, 100%. Everybody's been talking about that since it first came known. Most Christians understand it's by faith that we accept such an amazing thing. Now, the common era and the current era is what's used commonly today in concern for the feelings of secularists, in other words, agnostics or non-believers in God, because the old Gregorian calendar would have had BC and AD in it, which has to do with the birth of Christ. So we moved to common era and current era, which is in English translations from even the time of maybe Kepler and the early 18th century. Those terms were starting to be used. So there are alternatives to Dionysian AD and BC system for that concern, if you will. So that's how we're used. Common era, or before the common era, or the CE, which is the current era. Okay, hopefully I got that explained correctly. But the thing with Pope John I was establishing a date for Easter. It had something to do with Diocletian, the Roman emperor from about 284 to 305, who apparently was a vicious persecutor of Christians. So, of course, they wanted to move off of that understanding and history. And that's when Dionysius Exiguus was to establish a better calendar. Got it a little bit off. But some would say, so what? What's a few 5 years? And then it's been corrected with Pope Gregory and the Gregorian calendar with the leap years, and now we have what we have. So, what does that matter? We use the Gregorian calendar is the most widely used in the world. So everybody, at least, if you have a date to set in China or Japan, because you're going to be doing some business or travel over there, make reservations in a hotel, you got to have the same date. So we've worldwide pretty much chosen the Gregorian calendar to be our dates, to be our calendar. So here we are in a new year, starting a new year. And where will we be 365 days from now? The year ends December 31st, as it did yesterday, and we start a new year. And here we are, 2019. And many thought that in 2000 the world would end. It didn't. No one knows if there's when. As a Christian, nobody knows when the world will end in its present state. There are many believe that will end from our human behavior and carelessness as stewards of this planet. It may be, or a giant asteroid, or something else. Personally, it will be God who ends all of this, and that's pretty much how it is. So there's a little history in the calendars. I hope you're not as befuddled as I was trying to understand it, how it all came about. But for the Western world, it basically was established on the founding of Rome, and then adjusted and danced around by different mathematicians and experts to establish that. And also, since it was founded and established and founded within the Christian religion, those popes' names were used. The before Christ, it's not after Christ. Anno Domini, the year of our Lord. Oh, brother, I foul that up. But that's how we came up with, where they came up with BC and AD. Okay, that had to do with Christ's birth. And it had to do with Latin. And it had to do with the Catholic Church. Okay, now the first one we know, the Julian calendar, based on the Caesar of the time, wanted it corrected. So here we are. Anyway, I tell you what, Happy New Year. Today's the first. That's what we've all agreed on around the world. And 365 days from now, and December 31st will be the end of 2019. Remember, when you're signing dates, you now have to set a new year, 2019. Hopefully we get that right. Okay. Later, we'll have more time to talk and argue politics and religion and whatever. Right now, just enjoy this day and this new year, and I hope it's a great one for you. I'm Timothy Linsdau. Like and comment on my video, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.